After my sister's wedding, I sat alone in the dim glow of the parking lot lights, engine still running, and stared at my phone screen until my eyes burned. The number staring back at me was impossible. 0. A perfect hollow circle where my entire life savings should have been. Every single dollar I had scraped together over 12 grueling years of Army service, through back-to-back deployments in dusty hellholes, missed birthdays, endless nights where I genuinely believed I wouldn't see another sunrise, had vanished without a trace. I refreshed the banking app with a trembling thumb. Nothing. I refreshed again, harder, as if force could bring the money back. Still nothing. The balance remained a cold, merciless 0. My stomach dropped like I had just stepped out of a helicopter into free fall. This wasn't just money. This was survival. This was the promise I had made to myself on my first deployment, that no matter how broken the world got, I would build something solid for myself. My name is Captain Elena Brooks. I had walked through sandstorms that scoured skin raw and mortar fire that lit up the night like the 4th of July from hell. I had led soldiers through ambushes and chaos that would shatter most civilians. I had stared death in the face more times than I could count. But nothing in my military career prepared me for the suffocating silence of this moment. The betrayal that came not from an enemy, but from blood. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I gripped the steering wheel. The drive home stretched into eternity. Familiar roads blurred through a haze of disbelief and rising burning anger. Streetlights flickered past like judgment. Every mile brought another memory. The overtime shifts I pulled between tours, the hazard pay I never spent on myself, the deployments where I slept in foxholes while sending money home so my family could live comfortably. All of it gone. When I finally pulled into the driveway, the house was still dressed in the remnants of celebration. White satin ribbons fluttered lazily on the banister, catching the evening breeze like ghosts of joy. Half-empty champagne glasses and crumpled napkins littered the kitchen counter. A faint melody from the wedding playlist still seemed to echo from the walls, a cruel, mocking reminder of the laughter, dancing, and toasts from the night before. The air smelled of wilted flowers and leftover cake. My father sat in his usual armchair in the living room, the same worn leather throne he had occupied like a king for as long as I could remember. He looked completely at peace, legs crossed, flipping through a magazine as if the universe hadn't just cracked wide open beneath my feet. I walked straight up to him, boots still dusty from the drive, and thrust my phone in front of his face. "My account is empty." He didn't flinch. He didn't look surprised. Instead, a small, almost paternal smile crept across his lips, the same smile he used when I was a child and he wanted me to stop asking questions. "You're young, Elena. You'll earn it back." For a second, I thought I had misheard him over the roaring in my ears. The words refused to compute. "What?" He leaned back, completely relaxed, setting the magazine aside. "Your sister needed help. The wedding was more expensive than we planned, venue, dress, catering, all of it. You'll recover. Family helps family. That's how it's always been." I stared at him, my pulse thundering like artillery fire. That money wasn't just savings. It was my future. My security after retirement. The down payment on a house where I could finally feel safe. The only thing I had built entirely for myself after years of putting everyone else first, sending money home during deployments, covering my sister's college fees, helping with my parents' bills. "That was my money," I said, my voice low and shaking with a rage I barely recognized. "Every cent of it. I earned it with blood and sweat while you were safe here." He shrugged, as if we were discussing the weather or a minor household chore. "It's family money now. It served a better purpose. Your sister has a new life ahead of her. You're strong. You always land on your feet." The room seemed to shrink around us. The air grew thick and heavy, pressing down on my chest. Before I could find the words to respond, before the full weight of his casual cruelty could fully register, his phone rang sharply from the side table. He stood up too quickly, almost knocking the magazine to the floor, and hurried into the hallway, his movements jerky and tense. Too quick. Too tense. Warning bells from years of tactical training screamed in my head. I followed silently, moving like a shadow. I pressed myself against the wall just out of sight and listened. His voice had transformed completely. No longer the calm, authoritative patriarch, but sharp, anxious, almost panicked. "Yes. What do you mean it's exposed?" A long, heavy pause. "Accounts flagged. Identity trail traced. Someone filed a report. How the hell did that happen? My heart slammed against my ribs like it was trying to escape. Exposed? Accounts? I held my breath. He turned slightly and caught sight of me in the shadows. His face hardened instantly, eyes narrowing with something between fear and fury. He ended the call without another word, jamming the phone into his pocket. When he walked back into the room, he tried to compose himself, smoothing his shirt and forcing a neutral expression. But I could see the slight tremor in his hands, the way his jaw clenched. What was that about? I asked, my voice steady despite the storm inside. Just a business issue, he said with a forced chuckle that sounded like breaking glass. Nothing for you to worry about, Elena. You've got enough on your plate. But I was done believing him. Done with the lies that had apparently been woven into my life for years. That night, while the rest of the house slept under the soft glow of wedding decorations, I began to dig. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, using every skill I had learned in military financial oversight, fraud detection protocols, and intelligence analysis. What I uncovered wasn't a simple mistake or a moment of desperation. It was a meticulously built system spanning years. Multiple accounts opened in my name while I was overseas on deployment. Loans I had never signed for, with forged signatures that looked disturbingly close to mine. Wire transfers routed through shell identities and offshore-looking intermediaries. Funds siphoned and layered through a complex web of accounts that all eventually circled back to one central point: my father. Even worse, my sister's information had been used extensively. My mother's name appeared on supporting documents as a co-signer. Addresses, phone numbers, social security numbers. Our entire family's identities had been woven into this financial spider web. Old family photos, utility bills, everything. This wasn't theft born of a single bad decision. This was calculated, long-term exploitation. A system designed to use me as the primary shield while the money flowed elsewhere. The next morning, exhausted but resolute, I reached out to Major Rachel Torres, a military fraud investigator I had worked with during my last deployment. Her voice was grave when she called me back within the hour. Elena, this is identity exploitation at a coordinated, sophisticated level. Your identity was used as a financial shield for years. And from what I'm seeing in these initial records, your father appears to be the primary architect and link. The word primary landed like a punch to the chest, knocking the air out of me. I closed my eyes, gripping the phone tighter. That night, sleep refused to come. I lay in the dark of my childhood bedroom, staring at the ceiling cracks I used to count as a girl, replaying every conversation, every time I had trusted him blindly. Every instance I had been told family comes first, while I sacrificed pieces of my soul overseas. The care packages I sent home, the pride I felt providing for them, all of it poisoned now. The following day, I confronted him again. This time I came prepared. I laid printed records, transaction logs, account statements, and highlighted emails across the kitchen table like evidence in a court-martial. The papers covered the surface like a map of betrayal. He stared at them for a long, heavy time. For the first time, he didn't deny anything. He simply exhaled slowly, rubbing his temples. You don't understand how things work in the real world, Elena. Life gets complicated. Debts pile up. Opportunities come and go. You stole from me, I replied, my voice cold steel. You didn't just take money. You took my trust. My future. I protected this family. He shot back, voice rising slightly. You were gone for years. Someone had to keep things afloat. I did what I had to do. That was the moment everything shifted inside me. This wasn't confusion or a misunderstanding. This was a deliberate, repeated choice. And I was finished staying silent. No more protecting the family at the cost of myself. I submitted every piece of evidence to the authorities the same day. The investigation moved with surprising speed once the military connections were involved. Accounts were frozen. Records seized from multiple banks. Forensic accountants traced transactions across institutions and even international wires. Piece by piece, the entire fragile structure my father had built began to collapse under the weight of scrutiny. Hidden accounts surfaced. Fake identities crumbled. That same night, the phone calls started flooding in. First my mother, voice pleading and tearful, asking me to think about the family. Then my sister, angry and defensive, accusing me of ruining her new marriage. Then numbers I didn't recognize, associates, perhaps creditors. I let every call go to voicemail. They had chosen silence and secrecy for years. Now it was my turn to wield it. A week later, my father finally called. His voice had lost all its former authority. It cracked with raw desperation. "This is being blown completely out of proportion, Elena. You need to fix this. Call them off. Make it go away." I said nothing, letting the silence stretch. "You owe this family," he continued, voice rising with frustration and fear. "We did this for survival. For all of us." Survival. The word almost made me laugh bitterly, but the sound died in my throat. Survival for him meant sacrificing me. "You used me," I said finally, my voice steady and clear. "You didn't protect the family. You preyed on it." He had no answer. The line went quiet and then he hung up. Months later, the official investigation confirmed everything. Extensive fraud, identity theft, financial manipulation on a staggering scale. The system didn't just fall apart. It unraveled publicly, exposing years of deceit that reached beyond our family. There was no triumphant moment. No tearful apologies around the dinner table. No dramatic reconciliation or hugs. Justice felt less like victory and more like a painful, necessary surgery. My sister never said she was sorry. My mother offered no real explanations, only excuses. And my father never reached out again. I didn't wait for them. I moved out, rebuilt my life from the ground up. Not out of revenge, but out of quiet, determined strength. I threw myself back into my career, sought counseling, and slowly restored my finances through discipline and focus. I learned that some betrayals don't end in fireworks or closure. They end in clarity, in the quiet realization that you are enough on your own. When the people who are supposed to love you the most take everything without permission, you have a choice. Stay silent and let them rewrite your worth, or finally take your voice back and refuse to be erased. I chose the latter, and I will never be silent again.